we go. Oh, let me put on the headset. Yeah, I got a headset now too, guys. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. Granted, I'm not sure exactly what they're seeing on the YouTube right now, but it's on. W Hunt, welcome! Ken. Yeah, yo, the chat is working. We're here on YouTube. We're here on TikTok. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh, guys. I am so excited for this. I am like extremely excited. I think you guys are excited as well. I think this is going to be like, this is a totally new experience, man. Oh my god. Are we almost at 10,000? We are coming up to 10,000 here on TikTok, guys. This is absolutely awesome. Thank y'all so very much. Man, I am just like so blown away right now. Hey, W Hunt, man, thank you for joining me here on the YouTube front as well. Who is this? We got Ken. Thank you very much for joining us here as well, Ken. It's so good to see you guys here as we're doing something completely new. We're going to be getting into our Bible study today, and the Bible study focus is going to be on Easter. Now, of course, as we're getting prepared to look at Easter, we are going to, yes, look at the biblical context, the biblical references and things like that, but we're also going to be kind of pointing out some details, not 100% confirmed facts, but details that pertain to Easter that, you know, have sparked concern, other details that may alleviate a lot of the pressure around this holiday, some things that a lot of us may not have even known. Again, these are some stuff that I discovered within my research also when it comes to this time of year. So I'm really hoping that what we discuss today will really be a blessing and make a difference for you guys. Man, this is going to be awesome. In case you're wondering, this is the Cosmic Peach Monster. These bad boys are delicious. Supposedly they're coming out with the Bomb Pop flavor, so I'm really kind of excited for that. All right. Oh yeah, absolutely, Kitsune. Absolutely, Kitsune. Now don't get it wrong, W Hunt is here as well. He's just on the YouTube. He's covering the YouTube. Guys, just so you know, we do this both on TikTok Live and we do this on YouTube. When we're on the YouTube stream, I have an OBS studio, so now I am able to allow for people to be able to see the Bible study lesson. You guys on YouTube, let me know if y'all can see this. Did y'all see that change? Were y'all able to see that change? I think so, but the only bad part is when you look at my camera, as you can see on the OBS studio, my camera is frozen. So that's going to be a hindering factor. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to go ahead and fix that. And then we will get back to, and then we'll just kind of go off the OBS stream for the rest of the day until I get this issue sorted out. Because I want this to be a smooth breeze. I don't want this to be there to be any issues. So we're going to fix that part real quick. Give me 1 second there. I got one thing to show you guys with some updates to go along with that. And I'll say my usual spiel, and then we'll get the Bible study started. Because I know y'all are sick and tired of waiting on me. I know. But it's okay. It's A-okay. We're going to get this party started off right. Yeah, I can see the chat. I see that you said I think the chat works, and I see where W Hunt has commented, Ken. And I just seen your recent message. I don't see much else after that. I can fix that though. Oh, hold on. I don't want it like that. If I pop this out of place like so, let's see. There we go. That'll have to work for now. Alright, so let me just fix this last screen, folks. And we'll put this like so. That way y'all can see the Bible study. Can y'all see the Word document? Oh, Rattles, your name is Kian? Rattle's name is Kian. I did not know. Oh, maybe you didn't want me to blast that, but hey, I didn't. That's cool. That's cool. And thank you for telling me that about the YouTube. The YouTube is like 15 seconds behind the TikTok, so that's a pretty interesting feature. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. That's going to be all right there, Kian. That's okay with me. I'm not too worried about that. If anything, I'm simply worried about it being visible and that you guys can see me clearly and the video goes over well. Those are my two biggest concerns. Especially when I go to add in another video, video camera. I don't want that to get in the way of us being able to do this. Because if that don't work, I'll just go take this camera back and get my money back for that. Because I don't want to waste the money. You know what I'm saying? All right, guys. Okay, let's go over a couple of announcements. One. I brought Jolly Ranchers. You know, Cantario loves some Jolly Ranchers chews. These are my favorite candy. I love it so very, very, very much. This is absolutely my favorite candy in the universe. I must tell you guys, absolutely. The other thing, and I think you guys will really love this, this is going to be a double-edged sword of information that I'm about to share with you. It breaks my heart, but it is what it is. The good news is, where I went through Amazon to, oh my goodness, this won't open, to do the journals. Of course, y'all know I had the Goku journal. Well, check out the Vegeta journal. This is the Vegeta journal. I don't know if y'all can see that right here on YouTube, but this would be the Vegeta journal. Hey, okay. Yo, I might bring the Dragon Balls back because if you'll look, the Dragon Balls are even in this one and they look amazing. I don't know if y'all can see that. If y'all see the Dragon Ball right there, they did a much better job printing the Dragon Ball in this one. Man, that was just a bad batch. Yo, I think I could do this, man. Yo, I gotta do a couple of touch-ups, but I think I could sell this. I think this could work. Oh, I think that could work. I think this can work, man. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, other tidbit of information that we have to discuss when it comes to the journals. Hey, my day is going good, Stevie Johnson. My day is going good, man. My day is going good. But here's the catch, guys. So, where I was able to attempt to try and do these journals through Amazon, it turns out that I ran into some copyright issues when it came to producing them on Amazon KDP. And they banned my Amazon KDP account. They closed it, and so I won't be able to produce it through Amazon KDP. I think I will try it. I think I'm gonna try Etsy first, instead of going back and trying to do a whole new account and deceiving them, and then they block me entirely. I don't want to put myself through that. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to Etsy instead, which they do offer the spiral option, and so I'm going to see how these would work with Etsy. And see if I can't get these journals produced through Etsy. If I can get the journals produced through Etsy, I will let you know when they go up on the market, guys. But I wanted to just kind of keep y'all informed. I don't want y'all to think I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure out what I'm missing. And I'm going to make these journals happen because I want to bless you guys. And I think this will be absolutely amazing. All right, guys. The last two announcements. When did I start going to church, Stevie Johnson? I've been going to church my whole life, man. I've been to church since I was born. I wouldn't be surprised if I was born in church. Yeah, I've been in church my whole life. I've been effectively preaching in and outside of church since I was 10. And I've been studying the Bible ever since. Granted, when I was 10, studying the Bible for me was reading the book of Mark in like the 14th chapter over and over and over and over again. Because I couldn't retain any of the information, so I just read it over and over again. So that was kind of how my start started. So it was kind of funny. It was a really funny start. But not only that, guys. If you have not seen, for those of you for my YouTube channel, for those of you here on TikTok that don't know, I will be doing the TikTok towards it. My Bible case has the same symbol on it. Okay. You talking about midnight on there? Okay, I think that's what you're talking about. I think I'm following you. No, but I'm going to do a TikTok on this. However, with OBS being set up now to where I can stream on here on YouTube, I will be going live to stream my real-time reaction to the first episode of Hell's Paradise. And what I will do is I will be giving you, of course, you get to see my reaction. You're going to, of course, see me pause and expound on some things, speak on some things I do and do not know. But most importantly, I'm going to take the time to, in real time, speak to some biblical opportunities and moments that may be involved in the series. Definitely going to skip over things that I think are inappropriate and unnecessary for young people to see. And I'll acknowledge those things as problems as we go through actually watching that episode. Though I don't think there's anything in the first episode that should be concerned. Yeah, it's going to be live. It's going to be live on my YouTube tomorrow at 3 p.m. I believe was the time I had scheduled. Yeah, I think I had it scheduled for 3 p.m. So yeah, we're going to be going live and doing that then. So please, make sure that whoever's watching on YouTube, make sure that you tune in. You guys watching here on TikTok, make sure that you tune in tomorrow. If you go to my YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button. Check out some videos so that you have a killer echo. Okay, I think I know where the echo might be coming from. Testing. Hold on. Okay, so that's that one. That's blocked. I don't know which one is which one. Oh, the video capture device. Hold on. Block that. W Hunt, do you still hear an echo? Let me know if you can still hear an echo. I don't want there to be too much. I think I only want one mic working, so let me do it like that. There we go. We'll see if that works. They'll tell me here in a second. There we go. Okay, they're just testing the audio here on the YouTube, making sure if this is working or not. Hopefully he'll tell me if it's not. But the last thing I want to let you guys, awesome. Last thing I want to let you guys know is that this will be the last week that I will be doing the, if you make a donation, this is the last week I'll be doing this. So I have a Cash App, and you can see my Cash App right here. Okay, I sent that to the YouTube. And I'm going to be posting it here to this. Nope, hold on. This will be the last time I'll do this. This is my Cash App. And what we do, I don't simply just take donations so I can take your money. And I don't do that. What I do is, if you make a request for me to get a specific manga from a bookstore, Barnes & Noble, or wherever else, Barnes & Noble is my mainstay, that's my home. Y'all know, y'all been following me, that's where I go, I'm telling you. But you make a donation and request a specific comic book or specific manga, I will go get that book. And when I go get that book, I will go live on TikTok to go get that. And I will definitely be shouting out whoever made that donation to get whatever manga series that they're requesting, as long as the manga is appropriate. But this will be the last week that I will put this out there, that I will be broadcasting that I'm doing this. And I'm saying that because I do not want my channel to be observed in a way where I'm simply begging people to buy manga from me. I don't want that to be my reputation, and I don't want that to be the perspective that my audience has of me. So again, this will be the last week. If no donations are given this week, this will be the last time that I ever say that again on social media. All right, guys. Thank y'all so very much for sticking it out with me. Thank y'all for listening in and to this part of the conversation. It's now time for us to get into the Bible study. Let me get my sword out. I know Rattle has his sword out. It's time I get mine. Hey, Victor, I do too. I'm not caught up on my manga, but I do too. Get your swords out. Yeah, My Hero Academia is an absolutely bomb, awesome manga. I'm caught up online, but I'm not caught up with my collection. So I aim to catch up my collection one day in the future. But yeah, get your swords out, folks. Get your swords out. Let's get it. We're about to get this Bible study started at 12,000 likes here on TikTok. The weird part is I can't see how many likes I have on my I don't see my like count here on my YouTube, but that's okay. I'm not worried about that right now. I'll figure that part out later. I've already wasted enough time. Oh yeah, it's time for sword practice. Kitsune, I'm gonna coin that. Kitsune, I'm coining it. I'm gonna steal it. Can I steal it from you? Can I steal that from you? I will try and make a shirt off of that. I'm gonna make that my quote. I'm gonna make that my quote here on the channel for real. It's time for sword practice. Shout out to Kitsune for giving such a spectacular suggestion. Thank you so very much, Kitsune. Look, boys, I'm telling y'all right now, boys, y'all better step up your game. These young women getting into the Word of God are going to surpass you if you don't step up to the plate as men of God. Let's get it, okay? Let's get it. Don't run now, Victor. Don't run to the bathroom. I'm just kidding, Victor. I'm playing. Victor. I'm playing. Go do what you got to do. We'll be here, okay? We'll be here. Definitely. Okay, for those of you here on YouTube, as you guys can see, this, of course, our church Bible study, we call it Life in the Word. So that's why it's tagged like that. No, hold on. Full screen. Okay, here we go. And so, the first part, right, for the Bible study tonight, guys, is going to be looking at the biggest issue that we face when it comes to Easter is there being this claim of association to who's known as Ishtar. Ishtar is a Sumerian goddess of fertility, of war, of sex, of promiscuity, and and several different other things. She covers a lot of different positions. Kitsune, please design that for me and let me know once you have it. I'll give you a link or a page to which you can send it to me. You can either send it to me on Instagram, here, on TikTok. Either one works perfectly fine. But yeah, so the biggest arguments that we have taking place when it comes to Christians celebrating Easter. Now I'm doing my words selectively, of course. Christians will be in tune for Passover. They'll be in tune for Lent. They'll be in tune for even Resurrection Sunday. But calling it Easter is a big red flag for a lot of Christians. And they associate that. Now this is just a lot of surface talk what I'm doing here in the beginning. That's associating that back to that goddess Ishtar that I mentioned before. And a lot of times it's because what they do is guilty by association, and I mean that in wording. So Ishtar sounds like Easter, so it's assumed that Ishtar, goddess of fertility, must be the goddess that represents Easter for those of the pagan religion, for those of the Sumerian, background. Of course, from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. However, there has also been this uncovering of, the details surrounding Ishtar so that there is a deeper understanding of, well, who is exactly Ishtar? And that's what I kind of want to start this Bible study out by clarifying, well, who exactly is Ishtar? What's Ishtar's relationship in all of this? And let me give this disclaimer before we get started. Everything that I am about to say is done through me seeing people explain these on YouTube, which I have linked in the description here on my YouTube channel, as well as following up with some Google research, searching up the similar information that I found from the YouTube to verify if there's other supporting statements being made. Now, with that being said, there is supporting documents to go along with that I have not found to back up some of these statements. However, the statements that I am about to make are not statements as facts. These are just information that has been identified with these associations. They are not the set in stone reasons for this, that, and the third. So these are things that you're hearing them from me. Go back and do the research of your own accord to validate and or expound your understanding of anything I am about to say in association to these different deities, these different gods, and these historical figures. Okay? I want that to be the first thing that anyone gets from me out of this is just speculatory observations and information. Okay? I hope that helps us out as we get this started. So, the first thing being, again, Ishtar. Now, Ishtar, sorry, I messed this up here in the beginning already. Ishtar is not a Sumerian goddess. Ishtar is a Mesopotamian goddess, particularly with the Babylonians, with the Assyrians. And so that's more so where her realm of divinity operates, is with those people of those cultures from back then. Now, where Ishtar ended up coming into play, it is believed that she comes from a goddess known as Inanna, which is one of the first female goddesses of the Mesopotamians back then. Inanna particularly was the goddess of the Sumerians. Now, that thing with her was she was a goddess of love, a goddess of war, a goddess of fertility, a goddess of sex and beauty, and all of these different things. Hence, when we get into the Babylonians and the Assyrians, there is that relationship. It's speculated that they got the inspiration for Ishtar from Inanna. And so, with them having gotten that correlation, that's where we have these two different but same goddesses for these different locations and sections. Now, what that already tells you is that for those that practice a polytheistic worship, or those from our past that have a polytheistic religion, what we're seeing is that these gods and goddesses represent different aspects of life to operate as symbols for those different aspects of life. And what they would do, granted I'm very much simplifying the depth of this, they established, created stories, moments in history they created these stories and this mythos to better articulate or personify these deities for us to understand, how they came to power, understand what it is that they do, and what the relationship is one to another, as well as their relationship to us. So again, there's so many different stories and different occurrences that relate these goddesses back to their titles, relate them back to us as people. There's so much to unpack with that. Okay, and so some of the things that I kind of wanted to take a moment to point out with regards to that is where the king, I don't know if y'all can see that here on the YouTube, that's that third bullet point right here, third white bullet point right there. I don't know if y'all see that. Bring that down some. There you go. So, upon Sargon the Great, this was the king of Acadia. When he came into power, he was basically, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but he was a king over majority of Mesopotamia. And with his power, what he ended up doing was he ended up combining both Inanna and Ishtar for the people to be able to worship, rather than leaving them as Ishtar looks like a lot like the Statue of Liberty. Okay, W. Hunt coming in with the more information. The more that you know, the more you know. That's something to definitely consider. Oh, you brought up something interesting. I'm going to have to check that out when it comes to the Statue of Liberty. But when it came to Ishtar and Inanna, they were unified, where before they were worshipped as two separate deities. Not only that, they are goddesses that weren't a part of the original pantheon, but they were created after the pantheon had been pre-established. So with them being brought in, that's where we kind of see them not simply being a part of the pantheon, but dominating. A lot of love and attention was being given to Inanna and Ishtar during this time. So much so to the extent of them, and I'm just saying this again in a broad statement, you can research this and get more specific details, to where they were able to dominate and take over other temples. One in particular, this temple has a story linked to it where Inanna bargained with the god over this temple to be able to now take ownership and rule in this temple. And of course, she had her own priestesses that operated within this temple as well. A lot of speculation goes into that, for not them simply holding regular ceremonies, but they were also incorporating orgies into this, even more so there being an incorporation of homosexuality. She also has her own priests that would be considered to be non-binary in some ways, to the extent of them presenting themselves in a female fashion in honor and representation of Inanna and Ishtar whenever they would go to do their sacrifices, ceremonies, rituals, etc., whenever they would go to enter into the temple. And so I only say that because where we probably look at what's going on now today as being a specifically isolated change in our society, impact, detriment, if you even will, is actually some stuff like we hear from the left side or from the radical side constantly saying, well, this has been a part of history. There's some records and evidence for that within the Mesopotamian culture where that became a practice. Not casting stones, however, we can see, though, that the Mesopotamian Empire didn't maintain its rule, so take with that what you will, but they did have that during that time. That's just something to make sure that we know, make sure that I point out. Woo, child. Okay, some other details, too. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, right? That's pretty interesting, Rattle. Now, when we get into some associations, right? Because remember, like I said before, how we have these gods and goddesses being representations of different aspects of life. Inanna derived from Inanuk, which means Queen of Heaven or Lady of Heaven. Ishtar is associated to Attar, who is associated to the goddess and planet of the goddess and or planet Venus. So where we know, I think it's the Greek or the Romans where they worshiped Venus, that's where there's this association back to Ishtar. Even more so, the same thing goes for Aphrodite. There's correlations there as well. So if there's any inspiration coming from anywhere, that's where they got that inspiration, was Ishtar and Inanna. Okay? Attar, which we again associate back to Ishtar, Attar is associated to the day star, or star that you can see during the day. I'm not sure exactly if that's speaking of the sun or a different star that's observed during the day, but that is that association there, is the day star. That's where Attar would come into play, which is more in association to war or masculinity. Now, there is also another star which is seen at night, which is associated back to love and femininity, which is where you more so get Ishtar. But again, as the popularity of the people arose for particular gods and goddesses, their position is elevated and others are brought down and lowered in their rule. Attar probably is associated to Jupiter. It's a possibility. I'm not exactly sure, though. I will say that, Kitsune. I'm not exactly sure. But where Ishtar and Inanna's popularity rose, the other gods were either brought down and or forgotten in comparison to Ishtar and Inanna's rule. Just a funny story, actually, that I came across in regards to Inanna / Ishtar. There's actually several. Like, literally, there's several. And one of the funny stories that I came across in regards to Ishtar is that, excuse me, I think it was Inanna. But she had two people in which she had an opportunity to have a relationship with. One of them being Dumazid, who was a shepherd, and then there's this Admunib. I'm butchering that name. There was another person involved in this story as well. So there's Dumazid and there's another. Dumazid being the shepherd, this other person being the farmer. Where Inanna originally was going to be marrying the farmer, with the help from her brother Utu as well as Dumazid, they convinced her to marry Dumazid instead of the person that she was going to marry, who was the farmer. Now, the reason I found that funny, because again, these are some of the earliest transcripted texts for like religious mythology and gods and goddesses that were being worshipped, and even stories for them. And so when I looked at this and saw that it was the shepherd and the farmer, where the farmer lost out and it was the shepherd that got the woman at the end of the day, I immediately thought of Cain and Abel. I'm like, the farmer, the shepherd, Cain, Abel? Is that the story that I'm getting? And I could not help but identify that. I could not help but make that association. Like, it blew me away to make that association, guys. So I'm not trying to say that that's where they got it from, But it's hard not to think that at the same time. That's just how my brain works, guys. I always associate everything back to the gospel. Hey, she had. Oh, so that must be Cain and Abel that we got from the Bible. That's just kind of how my brain works. And for me, I just believe that that's another opportunity to share the gospel with people. Okay, guys, I know that sounds like I'm tangenting, but I am not. It's important for us to, when we're looking at these different gods and goddesses, that we associate back to holidays, and then we are scrutinizing holidays and saying, well, we are not going to celebrate them, then you should never celebrate them because they mean this and then they mean that, or people are celebrating it for this reason. Well, you got to know what you're talking about when it comes to these things so that you can effectively challenge these things rather than make assumptions, and your assumptions or what you heard from somebody else or what has been taught to you every year with no context, no sources, and no research. Instead of just hearing those same things over and over and over again, you kind of have a deeper understanding so that you can speak to those things. Now that we understand these aspects about Ishtar and Inanna, let me point out something that's key that a lot of people miss out on when it comes to these gods and goddesses. Thank you so very much. Currently charging. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for that, for the blessed statements. I'm definitely going to keep it going. I'm definitely going to keep pushing to share the gospel in this way, man. So thank you very much. Just in case anyone on YouTube, on TikTok noticed me looking this way, it's because I'm tuning into the YouTube stream. Anyone on the YouTube stream, if I'm looking this way, it's because I'm tuning into the TikTok stream. Just so you guys know, I'm working with you both, okay? I'm working with you both. But let's go ahead and kind of tackle these associations. Now, one of the biggest things we got to look at when it comes to Inanna and even Ishtar, even if you look at the imagery depicting them, okay? They're depicted as a womanly form that has wings, okay? The reason that she has wings is because she is able to transform into a dove, more so associated to that love side or that feminine side of her, okay? So she transforms into a dove. Her other form, whenever she goes to war or battles or is fighting monsters, because there's a lot of stories that incorporate this for her, she goes into the form of a lion. So her two forms associated to Ishtar and associated to Inanna are the lion and the dove. There's not evidence as far as documents go showing that she has associations to the hare or any associations to the rabbit or any associations to the egg. So I'm not saying that has been disproven by this. I am saying that there is no documented evidence for their history that shows that they have associations to the rabbit or to the egg. Okay? So that argumentatively disassociates Ishtar and Inanna to Easter. Okay? So that's just one of the first things that I wanted to make sure that I was able to point out for us. Okay. However, that does not limit that there are other goddesses involved in the history of Easter. Okay. There's another goddess where, and this comes from Germany. There's more I'm going to expound on when it comes to Germany, but this is more so looking at the goddess in Germany for the springtime. Springtime, not Easter or Easter Sunday or the lunar the solar or the lunar equinox, and that is Eostre or Eoster, right? That's German, okay, and that German term is the German goddess for the dawn or the German goddess for the bringer of light. Even with her, I am not saying that there is, I can't say if there is or is not enough evidence, but it is believed that there's possibilities within the German culture that she has some associations, but it's not exactly clear. What's up, Light in the Darkness? Welcome to our Bible study. It's good to see you. What's up? What's up? Yeah. So, I sound like my dad on that one. So Eostre is a German goddess for the dawn and a bringer of light. She is believed to be a goddess for the spring for the Germans. But there's not a lot of there's not a big paper trail for her for us to know any stories or know a lot of history or know animal associations in regards to her. So there's not a lot backing that. Okay. However, word of advice, unless you're playing a video, don't eat candy when you're teaching a lesson. I just realized how bad of an idea that was. I feel real bad for you guys here on YouTube, because y'all probably hear the spit in my mouth just like swashing. Sorry about that. That was probably, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. Okay, so now another aspect of the of Germany, right, is they would have their ceremonies or their celebrations and their festivals for spring, and when they would have that is during Eastermanoth. Okay, that's basically German for the 4th month. And so Eastermanoth, Eastra, that goddess of, the bringer of light, right? There's some association there. However, Eastermanoth means the 4th month, which is the month of April according to our calendar. But that was a time frame in which they would hold festivals to celebrate the spring. Now, when Christianity, thank you, Kian, thank you very much, man. But when the gospel had begun to reach Germany, again, they shifted their celebrations from being whatever it was that they were doing then to what it was that the early church was doing at that time, which is, let's say, Lent and celebrating the Passover. They took on that. And when they were celebrating that, they would, of course, acknowledge it as Eastermanoth. Okay? Easter. Eastermanoth. That's also a possible association for where we may get Easter from. Instead of it simply being limited to Ishtar Easter, it could be Eastermanoth Easter. That's probably where that comes from. 4th month. A way that we could look at that is 4th of July, to kind of put that out there. Some of these details, like I said, check out the description in the live. That's where I heard this portion of breakdown in this way from Inspiring Philosophy. So I got to give him credit for the way that he articulated that. He does a great job of speaking on the holidays, and he believes that it's disproven that those things are not actually pagan in origin, but he does a great job of bringing evidence and bringing facts and details and giving you sources to cite and look into to be able to back those claims up, which is, of course, why I kind of trust what it is that he has to say. I'm not fully convinced that pagans don't do something during the spring, but I am also a firm believer that Christians can do what they would like to do in honor of God during those same times. I do hold to that very, very strongly. And I give the devil no power. That's just kind of my thing, guys. I don't believe in giving the devil so much power. I think people give the devil so much power when they say, "Oh, the devil does this and has this. The devil does this and has that. The devil does this and has it." Man, tell the devil to be quiet. Like y'all give him way too much voice. What's up, Georgian Cowboy? Welcome back. Y'all give the devil way too much voice, and I'm not for it. But that's where us as believers have to be able to dig deep into history, study these details about other mythologies, different cultural practices, moments in history. We have to be able to dig deep, look into these details, and then speak to these things to those same people that believe those things, practice those things, study those things, to lead them back to Jesus. To lead them back to Jesus. How do you think the early church was even able to reach the German people without knowing what the German people believed in the first place? They weren't going to simply convert them without understanding not only the gospel of Jesus, but understanding the German culture to then be able to sway them. You go in disrespecting someone's culture, no love for their culture, talking down to what it is that they do. What you do is wrong. Jesus is the way. You need to turn away from your pagan worships. Granted, in some cases that works because you do get people to kind of tune in, but in other ways that is a complete turn off and the depth of outreach, the transforming when it comes to doing outreach, right? That's just my thing. I see where Rattle has said, I know for a fact that there are many pagan holidays in December. Yep, I have heard that as well. I don't know if you hold to this, Rattle, but that also does not mean that Christians shouldn't do anything during December. So we could there's something there again, in my opinion, where you know we Christians can step up and do something then, because again, it makes no sense for Christians to say, "I won't celebrate Easter, I won't do eggs and hares, but then I'll go and do Christmas trees, this, that, and the third." Now, even in that, there's some things to talk about, discuss, and break down more to better understand whether or not it's actually pagan. But even then, you'll do this, but you won't do that. That stuff, that doesn't make sense to me. That sounds very wishy-washy and nitpicky. Okay? Especially when you're kind of holding the fire to other people during those times as well, because of those same disagreements. Okay, that's just again, that's just my perspective on that. I hope it does. It's not me kind of making a claim against anyone that believes otherwise. Okay, let's take a look here. Make sure something. In Orthodox Christianity, we celebrate Easter on a different day. We use the Julian calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. I look forward to kind of studying some of that stuff. You know, the Gregorian. That's one thing I'm looking forward to getting into as well. As I'm studying this, makes me want to study other details. Hey, CZ, that's my baby sister. Just showed up on my TikTok stream. What's up, baby sis? We're doing a little Bible study right here. So it's so good to see you. So good to see you. I love you. I love my sister, guys. I love my family. I love my family. I love my family. Oh yeah, absolutely, JT Mag. It's definitely an honor to celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, man. We're about to get a bit into that. I know a lot of you have been waiting on us to get into the Bible, so we're about to do that. Now you're probably like, well, what about the rabbit and what about the egg? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we kind of get into where we are as in the Christian faith, I think it is important for us to kind of look at as well the biblical perspective that leads us into the actual Passover, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, you know, the death and all of those things, what builds up to that. And that's, of course, what we get in Genesis chapter 12 and 13 when we're looking at the official Passover that occurred in Egypt. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12, my sword holders. Genesis chapter 12. Is it Genesis 12? No, it's Exodus 12. I typed that wrong. Let me fix that here. Hold on. It should be Exodus 12, not Genesis 12. Here we go. To think I almost had these printed. Kia says, I was once a pagan, so I know a lot about pagan matters. Hey, man, definitely send me some details on some... I'm not trying to get, like, converted to paganism, but, like, show me some of the details and the sources for that, because I'd love to research that, too. I mean, I know there's a lot of pagans out there, and the more I know, the better I can lead them to Jesus, man. So if you got some books and stuff you can reference for me, I'd love to read into that more. Absolutely. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing, too. As we're getting into Exodus 12, giving you guys some time to turn. Here's some things as we get into Exodus 12. You need to be solid in your faith before you go and digging. Be solid in your faith before you go in digging. What do I mean by that? I'm not saying don't read your Bible, but say you love Jesus and then go look at these other religions. Because that's what's converting a lot of people now today, is they don't know enough about the Bible, but then they get introduced to a different religion, and then that religion has a lot more details that they're hearing and studying and reading about, and then they convert. Or they deconstruct. That's where a lot of that stuff is coming from. So we have to be diligent in our biblical readings. We need to be diligent in our fellowship and studies. We need to be diligent in getting answers for our biblical questions. What's up, Gospel Gorilla? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. We're just having a Bible study. We're in Exodus chapter 12. But be diligent in those studies. Be diligent in those questions. Be diligent in your fellowship. That way you have a solid foundation within yourself in regards to the gospel, in regards to your faith, so that when you go to study those other things, you're not swayed, but you understand how those things can and are possibly associated back to the real gospel, that being of Jesus. So yeah, that's crucial. That's so extremely crucial. All right, guys. So are we there? Are we in Exodus chapter 12? Okay, here in the Okay. All right, Kian. Definitely, man. Do not push yourself in a way that and I use it slightly, that triggers you or affects you spiritually. I do not wish to do that, and even more so, man. Not even being funny. If you need me to pray about anything, please just let me know. I'll be more than happy to pray for you. And I say that because I care. I say that because I care and that I love you, and I do not wish to shake your faith or affect your faith in any way, shape, or form simply to gather data. Like, definitely do not wish to do that. Absolutely, man. If you ever want to share your story with me, you can do that. Me and him, I know we're friends here on TikTok. I know we've been talking about Discord, but I definitely love to hear your story and talk more. If you have the time or you want to reach out, you're more than welcome to do that. Amen. You know what? Ooh, random thought. Depending on how my stream Sunday goes, I don't know if you guys know or not, but I'm going live on TikTok Sunday to speak with the alt/goth Christians and give them an opportunity to kind of just share their story, share what got them into that interest in that style, and what confirmed for them that what they were doing was all right, and what affected that conviction or not. Just to kind of give them an opportunity to not express themselves with the looks only, but express themselves in word to why they got to the place where they are. I think they deserve a voice in that, and depending on how that goes, depending on how I build these new relationships with, other Christians, Christian women as well, because like I said, we have Kitsune. I'm going to use you as an example. Those that don't know you on YouTube, I have a very faithful, committed person who shows up on almost every TikTok live stream, especially for the Bible studies with her Bible, as well as her mom, SNSMA. But she shows up all the time. And, I am a firm believer in the appropriateness of how we conduct ourselves when we do ministry, when we're talking about the gospel, when we're spending time with people. And there is a limit to, especially older men with younger women, there is a limit to how they conduct themselves with them. So where I'd love to be able to establish a team of, let's say, female Christian content creators or influencers who would have the time or be available to support the younger women who get into social media and be a person that's a voice for them, a guide for them, to share the gospel with them and uplift them. And I'm not saying, Kitsune, I want to ship you off. I'm not saying that. But to have a team of women, like if something happens and you need someone to talk to, I can be like, hey, Kitsune, I know this group of women right here who you can message. They're firm believers in God. I trust what they believe, this, that, and the third. And you can go to them. And so I definitely want to establish a team like that. That way, that support is present. I think that's something else that we can do. I think that's something else that we need here on social media. An effective, parentally acceptable team of men and women to support men and women appropriately. All right, guys. Exodus chapter 12. We're getting into the origin of the Passover. The origin. His voice is not on, but he'd be great for. I'm gonna send him a. I'm gonna hit him up. I'm gonna be like, hey man, just in case. I'm gonna hit him with that. The origin of the Passover. I don't have a voice like his voice, but I can try to imitate him while I am on live. I hope you guys are being blessed by this entertaining performance where I try to sound as though I am his voice. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. I'm not good at it. Kitsune, one day. Kazaya, look, Baby Z, don't get mad at me, but I know a good brother. I just want you to know, sis, I know a good brother. And he be in his word. He be in his word. He be in his word, sis. I say ZZ. I said ZZ. I did not say your government name. Be for real. Don't be extra. Y'all see my sister being crazy? That's what I got to deal with at home. Now I got to deal with it online. I'm kidding. I'm being extra. All right. Genesis 12. Let's be professional, people. Let's be professional. Shh. Well, they didn't notice. Genesis 12. We're going to be getting into the first couple of verses here. And the first couple of verses are kind of giving us a focus and observation of time. And it says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their father, a lamb for an house." Okay, so this first 3 verses, 1 through 3, and then just part 3. Kitsune, are you side-eyeing me right now? Keep your shenanigans off the live? Oh my goodness. She said shenanigans. Well, Kitsune, you're distracting the Bible study with your comments. So, preaching to the public is challenging. People will always test your intelligence and faith. And hey, smooth Ralph, my honest opinion, that is a good thing. Because when I think about our Bible leaders, Paul, Peter, and all of them, I observed that they met challenges like that, and they didn't tell them, well, just believe me because I said so. They were having long, extended discussions that took hours and hours back and forth. I was just listening to Jordan Peterson talk about this, that if you are firm, and if you are convinced of what it is that you believe, then you can talk for a long period of time about that exact thing, even when it is challenged. But if it's what you say, if you are being challenged on what it is that you say, and all you do is get emotional, or all you do is get angry, or you're in the shock or disbelief, and you can't continue the dialogue, then what you have thusly demonstrated is that what it is that you believe may not be as true as you trying to claim that it is, or hold that much weight, at least not to you. And so that's where us being able to, for an extended amount of time, be able to speak to these things, be able to ask follow-up questions, be able to demonstrate there's some things that I don't know. For us to be able to do that with other people, that is what sets us up to lead people to Christ, to show people who Jesus Christ is that I'm not simply here to tell you Jesus loves you, turn from your wicked ways or you'll burn in hell, and that's the end of our discussion about Jesus. That's not it. That's not ministry. That's a whole loss. Hey, practice though. Ken said he's not well versed. He's not in any position to preach, but one day when he's more learned in the Bible, he'd love to preach. I'd say practice now, and I don't mean go out in the streets and start speaking what you currently know and making and embarrassing yourself. But what I mean is be practicing by speaking some things, articulating these things with other people. Have those discussions. That's a part of why I love. That's why I love what the comment sections here. That's why I love hearing from Rattle, Kitsune, W Hunt, Coop, Sorrowful Shinobi, Boris Gali. I love hearing from everybody. His voice, Faith Hashira, the Faith. I think his name's Faith Hokage. I'm just butchered it. I probably just butchered it. Sahil the Hokage. Excuse me. That's why I love hearing from these people and them giving their perspective, giving their opinion. Doing these videos on TikTok in spite of, because that puts you in a position to be challenged to grow. So Kian, if you really want to develop your understanding of the gospel, put yourself in a position to be challenged. A controlled position, but a position to be challenged. And an example of that, God, we're supposed to be under scripture, but this is important. Put yourself in a position to be challenged, but put yourself in a position in a controlled environment to be challenged. What does that mean? One that naturally can be demonstrated by expressing what it is that you believe in a, well, I am rattles. Yeah, that's good. But put yourself in the, like, it's being in church. And I'm not saying ask the pastor and let the pastor tell you what the pastor knows and then you just go off what the pastor says. I mean, when I say do it in church, you have brothers and sisters in church. Talk to them about what you studied and what you learned, getting them to study what they know and go back and forth off of each other. And at least the youth pastor being the mediator for those conversations. Or if you're like a leader in church, go back and forth with your fellow leaders and let the pastor and or apostle be the mediator for those conversations. So, and the pastor has to have that same setup for them. When they're going to be going to preach, teach, read, God is not their only accountability partner. Pastors and apostles, God is not their only accountability partner. They need other leaders in a position to challenge their things that they're saying as well. Chris Preston, God bless you. Thank you for joining me here on YouTube, man. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you being here. Absolutely. But yeah. Be challenged. Man, I'm acting like my dad. Oh my gosh. Be prepared to be willing to be challenged. The environment of church is like someone learning wrestling or learning boxing or learning a martial art or having a sparring partner, because that person is going to hit you, that person is going to test their moves on you, but you know that person is not trying to kill you because you know that it's a sparring situation. So you as well are able to demonstrate your skill, your strength, your techniques in that environment. It's not the same as going out in the street and testing what you know against a person that you don't know and thinking or trying to see if those techniques will work. That's a totally different thing. Be willing to practice and test your strength with other believers. Okay, so definitely Mr. Rattle, definitely anybody here on TikTok, guys, all of you here on YouTube, test your strength. Let's get the likes up on both platforms, everybody. Let's go. Let's get the likes up. Let's see if we can get TikTok up to 40,000 likes up in this house. Can we do it? I think we can. Let's go. Okay. Now, we just read Exodus 12, verse 1 through 3. At least we read the whole thing of 3, but I want to isolate on the first part of 3. So what we see is Moses and Aaron hearing from God about what is about to come, and this is mainly about the 10th plague that is to come. However, he's specifying instructions to the children of Israel for what is to come and what they need to be doing in light of that. I got to go back and double check because I wonder if there were specific instructions in the case of every single plague, or if this plague in particular had specific instructions. I need to double check that. I'm actually pretty curious about looking back into that. But what we have starting out is time and place. So as they're getting into this new month that they're entering into, the Lord is speaking to them saying, at the beginning of this month, going up into the first 10 days, just know that this is going to be preparation time for you guys for what is to come. And once you hit the 10th day, as we see in verse 3, he says, "Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of the month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of the Lord." So this is what you'll need to do on the 10th day. Okay? Now, in verse 2, where it says, "This shall be unto you the first month of the year for you," this isn't necessarily talking about them having their own calendar as much as what is speaking to the significance of the event that is about to occur. This is more so a highlight of the significance of the event, not necessarily saying this is going to be y'all's January. That's not necessarily what's happening there, okay? So he's giving them this time. He's giving them this moment. This is what's going to happen at the beginning. When the 10th day hits, this is what's going to follow. I need you to get your hands on a lamb. For those of you following on the YouTube, I hope y'all can see this here. Our next page, the lamb. That's the second half of verse 3 and 4, okay? I will reread that for you guys. Good. I want to put this out here because Rattle just said something. He said he gets to talk to his dad. He always has up to this point. Does your dad open up the door for you to kind of either challenge what he says or to express what it is that you think? Does he give you room for that, Kian? Okay. I don't mean disrespect his father. That's not what I mean. Don't misunderstand that. But the second half of 3, it says, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. So each house of the children of Israel needs to make sure that they have a lamb, okay? That's part 1. Every house needs to have a lamb. Now, it's going to get more interesting. It's going to sound extreme, but we're going to break it down. Make sure every house has a lamb. Verse 4, and if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls, or the number of persons. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Verse 5, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. Now, again, this is where we get back into this, right? All right, so this first part is 1, get a lamb. Every house get a lamb. Hello, Kaizen. Welcome, Kaizen. Welcome. You are welcome here. Just having us a little Bible study. I hope you guys are being blessed. Absolutely. We're for those of you just joining, anyone just joining on YouTube, anyone just joining here on TikTok, we are in Exodus chapter 12. We just read second half of verse 3, going up into verse 5. Okay, just so you guys know, Exodus chapter 12, verse 3 through 5 is where we're currently at. Now, the second half of 3 and verse 4, 2 things that's happening. You're getting a lamb, okay? When they identify that in your house is too small and you have excess meat, then it's all right. Just share what that excess you have with the neighbors. That way, they're able to eat. So another thing too with that's twofold. In one aspect is if I have too much, let me share with my neighbor. In another sense is if we see that someone is lacking, then make sure that you provide. Grive Power, welcome here. It is possible. I believe in the gifts of God being alive today, so it's possible that you could be. And I pray that they're coming from the Lord and not from any evil spirits or anything like that. And Kian, I do see you, and I see your response, and I think that is absolutely fruitful and beneficial, man. Absolutely. I think that is extremely fruitful. And so, as we're continuing here, but yes, they were making sure that everyone had lamb for each and every person that is an Israelite. Make sure everyone is provided for, okay? Now, I think that is beautiful because no one's being left behind, no one's being forgotten. In one sense, it's making sure everybody, is fed. In another sense, it's making sure everybody is covered. So there's this level of responsibility one to another that is being demonstrated in this very instance, again, of nobody being left behind. When we get into verse 5 is where we get into these specifics, right? And this is kind of what's going to blow your mind a little bit is verse 5 again, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it up, this is verse 6, until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So what is being expressed here is that what they need to do is when they get their hands on the lamb, right, they need to make sure that this lamb is without blemish, the best of the best, the top of all of them. Now, here's the thing about how this translates in the Hebrew. The lamb also translates to goat, so it could be either or. It could be either the lamb or it could be a goat. It could be either one because the term is used interminglingly, if that makes sense. It's not always just this little baby sheep. I know we always use that as the imagery, but it's not always limited to a little baby sheep. I see that Tondo Mondo says Jesus is God and he wants a relationship with you all. He did it all, so you didn't have to. Yes, he did. That is why we recognize. That's why we hyper recognize him during this time. You should always be thinking about the Lord each and every day and what he's done for you, reminiscing on that, praising him, reverencing him, celebrating him, lifting up his holy name. Oh my goodness. But during this time, it's kind of how we do that together. I think that is a difference there when it comes to holidays, is when we're celebrating the Lord God Almighty, when we're celebrating Jesus the Christ, when we're celebrating the Holy Ghost dwelling within us, when we're living our day-to-day lives, we're doing that for ourselves and making sure that we're kept and making sure that we're faithful and making sure that we're living according to his will and his way. But when we get to the holidays, when we get to these festivals, that is us doing that one to another. That's us doing one with another. Us coming together to do that rather than doing it by ourselves. So that's a beautiful thing about that, about holidays and festivals, that I think that we can start to focus on a little bit more. We're not doing holidays because we weren't celebrating and worshiping Jesus before, but we do these things together so that we can actually do them together. We can fellowship together. It's just pray that that's a blessing. Now, okay, the other half to that too, right? Is they say up to, you'll have to keep that lamb up until the 14th day. Okay, so what goes into that is, remember this, they got to get the lamb on the 10th day of the month. So they have to go and get this lamb that's without blemish, that's perfect compared to all the other lambs and the other goats. And then they have to separate them. What does it mean for them to separate them? Anybody in the comments, take a guess. I'm going to give you a second here. Take a guess as to what that means for them to have to separate the lamb or the goat from the rest of them. What does that mean? What does that mean to separate them? Let me know in the comments. What does it mean to separate the lamb or the goat? While y'all come up with those answers, I'll be right back. Make sure you put them in the comment sections, okay, guys? Make sure you put it in the comment section. Just so you guys know, here on TikTok, I kind of have like a wait screen or a pause screen here. Oh no, they can hear me. Okay, guys. Why were in the book of Exodus, when they were preparing for the Passover, were they required to separate their lambs and their goats that were without blemish? Why did they have to separate them from the rest? Now, Grive Power, he said a goat probably is going to fight, but the lamb may not be completely acknowledging his fate. Where I understand the premise, that's not necessarily the case. Stevie says, I don't know, I didn't get to that one yet. That's perfectly fine. W. Hunt has said, I don't know, but Revelation says Jesus will do that in the end. Now, Kian says, I frankly have no confident answer, but it might have something to do with avoiding contamination between the two meats. That's a very interesting point of view. I actually kind of like how you said that, Kian. Coop, thank you for your honesty. Guys, I'm probably going to say this every single time, but there's nothing wrong with not knowing. Do not beat yourself up about not knowing, okay? I don't use that as a moment to be like, man, I'm not reading my Bible. I'm not studying. I'm not reading enough. Which that may be true. That may be true. But you're already beating yourself up enough about that. Use this as a moment to be inspired to now operate off of the conviction of not knowing and not reading enough, so that you can be studying more from what you hear in the Bible study, so that you can go back and read and comprehend what's happening in those moments on your own. So that's something that's going to be truly important. And Kitsune says here, I was also going to say something about contamination, but I'm not sure. You guys are somewhat right, Kian, as well as Kitsune, when it comes to this thing of contamination. Being that these lambs are lambs without blemish, they were separated to sanctify them, set them apart from the others who were corrupt, who were with blemish. And so, yes, in some sense, that does keep them from contamination from those that have blemish. But at the same time, they were being sanctified, set apart. That's another aspect of what it means to walk with Christ, is to be sanctified, to be set apart. So these animals are being set apart, okay? Now, this does not mean necessarily that they were trying to split up the goats and sheep. That's not what that means. When I say goats and sheep, when you look in the Old Testament text and they say lamb, there are times where when they say lamb, they mean lamb, meaning both sheep and goat. So that one term could mean both, one or the other, or both. Okay? So that's what I mean when I'm saying lamb and goat, sheep and goat. It really just means lamb. Okay? That's what I mean by that in this context. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. He's saying, well, I'm here to learn, not to show off my knowledge. Again, honesty is a blessing, my man. Thank you. I see that Stevie says, I have an app where it shows, it's a kid's app. It shows you what's happened in the Bible. Okay, that's really, really cool. I think more kids should have something like that. I hope it's kind of, I guess you could say parents approved, but definitely. That's a good app. But yeah, these animals are being sanctified. Okay? Verse 6. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day. Again, so where we start this on the 10th day, where they gather all of these animals without blemish, they keep them separated from all of them for 4 days following that. So that's going up until the 14th day of that month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Okay, so what happens when nighttime hits? We're all going to kill the lamb. We're going to kill our sheep and or goats to ensure that we're able to eat. Now, here's something that's interesting about this that blows my mind. Notice the children of Israel are in captivity in Egypt. However, the children of Israel somehow, some way, have enough sheep, have enough goat, all of them without blemish, to be able to share one with another to make sure that each and every one of them are able to partake of the meat of this animal. Okay? I think that is absolutely crazy to envision. I'm going to make those associations that I believe a lot of you are already making right now in association to Jesus, but we're going to get there. But notice, again, these are people that are in captivity, but somehow these people in captivity have enough meat to make sure all of them can eat of the lamb and or goat in this moment. I think that's mind-blowing for me. I don't know about you guys, but that is mind-blowing for me. Now, verse 7 says, and they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two sides of the post and on the upper door doorposts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. Now, what we're getting into here is the classic blood on the doorpost imagery. Now, to be specific, some of you have probably seen iterations where it's simply the top. They just brush it across the top. No, they brush it across the top and the two side panels as well. Okay, so it's top, side, and side is where that blood is being spread on their doorposts as well. It's not just one part. So that's one thing that's extremely important to keep in mind. These instructions were specific. No one could simply put it on the top and call themselves covered by the blood. They had to put it across the top and down the sides to cover the entirety of the doorpost. Otherwise, they run the risk of, as we're about to look at, the Spirit of God coming in and taking the firstborn of the household. So, and they've already been through that once. You know, I wouldn't want to go through that twice, especially it being by the Spirit of God versus alligators. If I had my choice, I'd probably rather alligators than the Spirit of God. So just throwing that out there, guys. Just throwing that out there. I'd rather be that. So, make sure that blood covers the top and both sides. Okay? That's extremely important. So this is also scratching the surface of what you see in Leviticus. We did a Bible study series with the church. I did not have that recorded. If you guys want me to do that here, then please let me know. I definitely wouldn't mind going back over the Levitical sacrifices. Again, I don't consider myself a scholar on those, but I simply went off of what the scriptures say and researching the details of scripture to illustrate what's happening in those moments and what those moments mean. So I wouldn't mind doing that here on live one day. I would love to do that. But we kind of get that depiction here. The draining of the animal of its blood, specifically to use the blood for putting that upon the doorpost of your homes. Okay. Now, of course, 7 ends with them eating of the meat of the lamb that has been slain. Yeah, definitely playing on those words on that one, guys. Definitely playing on the words. They're spreading the blood on the doorpost of the lamb that was slain. Now, verse 8. Hold on, let me make sure here. Me neither, Ken. I am not either. I am not opposed to more knowledge. As long as that knowledge is coupled up with revelation from the Holy Ghost and the Bible, the Word of God. Amen. I don't simply want lackluster information. I mean, I don't mind just data for no reason. Because I love to kind of bring it up at random and people be looking at me confused. Oh, did you know? I'm one of those guys. Hey, did you know? Hey, did you hear about this? And I do that just to spark conversation. I don't even have to know the ins and outs. I just want to kind of see if you know more on it than I do, so that I can sit and listen to you talk. So that's just kind of my style. You know, I just love listening and learning. We're at 16K. Let's go. 20,000. Can we make it? Okay, verse 8. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. Purtenance meaning intestines or the insides. Cook all of it. Okay? So we see here that they're going to eat. Right? We see here that they're going to eat. We see that they're going to cook the lamb. We see that they're not going to do any special preparation when it comes to cooking it, but just put it in the fire, cook the entirety of the lamb. When you go to put this lamb in the fire, don't cut off its head. Don't cut off its legs. Don't try to only get to the best part of the animal. Everything needs to burn. I need you to burn everything about this animal. After you've gutted it, after you opened it up and bled it dry, cook it on that fire, cook everything, right? And including the intestines. Why is this one aspect of the significance here, right? Is that I think I'm actually finding it hard to kind of articulate this. But one aspect to that is when you look at the Levitical practice of sacrifice, one of the things that they do is they separate the heads, they separate the intestines, and they remove all of these things before they go to throw the sacrifice, do the sacrifice before God and to burn that meat. That way the smell that goes up is that of a sweet smelling savor up unto God. However, in this instance, when they're making this sacrifice, when they're preparing this meal to eat, this is more so to got to get my words right, to recognize the calamity of what is to come with the Passover taking place. This isn't this isn't necessarily a wonderful, a joyous, and a party time per se, as much as it is a serious instance that is about to occur that speaks to the significance of the deliverance of the children of Israel out of their bondage. All of it thus being done at no hand of their own. They didn't deliver themselves. It was God that freed them. They didn't take the firstborn of everything in the land. It was God that took the firstborn of everything in the land. So the weight of that, the impact of that, they don't get to enjoy the savory meal as much as they taste the depth and the rawness of this meal for them to do that. And in some sense, for them to eat of this lamb and to kill that in and of itself operates as that replacement. Oh, a firstborn has already been sacrificed. That which was without blemish has already been sacrificed. That's one aspect too. I forgot to point out, guys, that the lamb that's without blemish is also the firstborn of the family. Again, that kind of narrows down. That narrows the scope of options. Again, this is something that's blowing my mind. Is that's another thing that narrows the options for them when it comes to getting a lamb without blemish, getting one without blemish, making sure it's the firstborn and male, making sure that it is also separated for 4 days without interacting with the others. All of these expectations, and then you're making sure that everyone in Israel gets to eat, making sure everyone has blood on their doorposts. That's some specific instruction. Very specific and very narrow for opportunity. But everyone was fed, it seems. Okay? Let me see here. Verse 10. Now, this is also interesting too, where it says, "And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire, and thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, and shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover." All right, there's two things with that as well. Okay, as they're preparing to eat, I know you guys can kind of see the PowerPoint here. Make sure we're kind of in the same section. We just talked about the cooking, talked about the blood on the doorpost. Go back up, 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 go back up. Right there. That's perfect. That should be good. Okay, so we just talked about the cooking process when it comes to the lamb. Now, one of the other things too is you make sure all of it is gone. By the morning, all of it needs to be gone. Just in case there's any remnants left, burn it first thing in the morning. There should be nothing left of this lamb first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, burn it. Nothing left. No remains, no essence of it. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Y'all know what that's referencing. Y'all know that's referencing because it was an empty tomb. I said it. I couldn't help myself. No remnants left of this lamb that's been slain. Hey. Oh, goodness. Goodness. He did everything to the exactitude of what he had done before. Nothing left, man. Nothing left. Oh, I gotta calm down. Y'all know I get excited up in these streams now. There should be nothing left. Even to the point of make sure you burn the remnants. Yes, God is awesome. Make sure you burn the remnants. Don't leave anything behind. Again, these instructions are so crucial and so specific. And we'll get into why you need to do this. Okay. Again, I'm saying this part as the why you need to do this. I'm not simply saying that because it has this symbolic meaning only. I'm not simply talking about that. What I'm getting at is God is not a do as I say God, or do it because I said so God. There's a lot of assumptions that God is a do it because I said so God that has no reasoning, no backing, or support for what your claim is. But because I'm the one that's in power and authority, you better do it. God doesn't operate like that, though he is in a position of authority to do so. What God does is God follows through with an explanation. God follows through with what the consequences are if you don't do what he says. And the consequences aren't simply, well, I'm going to take off my belt and whoop you. The consequences are, this is the results of you not doing what I say. This is how this will affect you. This is how this will impact you. The example of this is completely evident beginning with Adam and Eve, where they were told, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or I'll smite you. No, that's not what the scriptures say. The scriptures say, if you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will surely die. And so he was expressing to them that there is a consequence to doing the opposite of that which I have instructed you. That is pre-existing consequences, not consequences that I lay in wait like Zeus with a thunderbolt to strike you if you don't obey me. That's a completely different behavior or different expectation that's being depicted here. Now, there are times where he does dish out these punishments of his own accord. For example, when the Ark of the Covenant was touched. But biblically, we also see where, again, it's not do as I say because it said so, and he just sits and waits to see if you'll do what he said. He brings a level of understanding as to why I teach you what it is that I teach you, why it is that I expect you to do what I expect you to do. So, in my opinion, even when we're talking about children, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, especially for you more long experienced, more skillful parents, where I believe that children asking why is fruitful to their understanding, not a detriment leading up to their disobedience and or rebellion. If you don't have an explanation, don't just demand that they do what you say simply because you said so. But when they can gain that understanding of why you say what you say, then they also have gained more trust in what you say. And they are less likely to trust the world, who have explanations. All the world has are explanations for this, that, and the third. Whether the explanations are right or not, at least they have one. And that's what's captivating our generation right now, is, well, they have an explanation where you don't. And so I'd rather listen to them where they can tell me something where you won't. That's just something I wanted to point out. Yeah, there are surprising references to Jesus all throughout the Old Testament. It is crazy. Even when we look at the details of the sacrifices in Leviticus, when you really start to look at that, you get a deeper understanding of the magnitude of the covering that Jesus does with his sacrifice too. So there's more stuff there as well. Let me just acknowledge some comments here. My man here, Warrior of Jesus, he said, we may never understand, but he knows all. He said, and then we have I Am Michael. He says, I use a simple rule. Always assume a bigger shadow stands near, so make choices warn your you kind of missed me there on that last one, but I think I'm vibing with you. I'm following you, I think. I think I get it, Michael. I think I get it, Michael. Forgive me. I think I get it. We're at 19,000. We're at 19,000. We need 21. Look, team. YouTube, I know we're limited to who we have. W Hunt, I love you. I don't know if he's gone already, but just know that I love you. But guys, TikTok, YouTube, y'all do what y'all can. I appreciate what y'all have done. We need 21 more thousand likes. 21 more thousand likes. Can we make it? Can we make it happen? I believe that we can. 21 more thousand likes. Let's go. Let's press that button. Press that button. Let's do it. Let's do it. I believe in you. Let's do it. Y'all gonna make me. I believe in you. I believe in you. Let's do it, man. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I gotta have fun with it. I gotta have a little fun. Hey, thank you for the fire, Michael. Thank you very much, man. Thank you for the fire. Let it burn. Let it fire. Let that fire. Was that Michael or was that Warrior? Warrior, my bad. Warrior, thank you for the fire, my man. Thank you very much. Let's keep it going. Okay, verse 11. When we're looking at verse 11, right, what it's speaking to, you're going to eat, but you're also going to eat with your loins girded up, as well as your shoes on, and your staff in hand, for this is the Lord's Passover. Okay? What are we speaking of here? When they're talking about loins girded and shoes on, they're ready. Now, I don't want to simplify what's happening here to them simply being ready, okay? Right? When you look at the old, that wasn't Michael Jackson. Rattle just said I went Michael Jackson on him. That wasn't no Michael Jackson. Good call, though. That's a good call, though. But it wasn't Michael Jackson. I appreciate you and I love you. But, when they're getting ready, when they're talking about girding up their loins, you notice, guys, back then they were regularly wearing those long loincloth types of clothing. They weren't wearing pants. So when they wore those long loincloths, if they ever had to run or to fight or anything like that, they wouldn't simply cut off their clothing or rip it apart so that their legs could move more. What they did was they pulled them up, and they tied them around their thighs so that they could have that free range of motion to move and to fight and other things like that. So when they're talking about girding up your loins, you're pulling up the hem of that which is draping so that you can have that free range of motion. He's telling them to get ready. Get your shoes on. Get your staff in hand, because we are about to move. The Passover is about to happen. I don't need y'all count. That's one thing. Again, Prince of Egypt is not biblically accurate, as much as I love the movie and I love how it introduces believers as well as non-believers to a real life depiction of what could have taken place during the time of Moses. That's one thing that I would say that they kind of missed the mark with a little bit, is depicting them as anything. God said be on ready. As you're eating, I need you on ready. So that's something biblical that we need to pay attention to. He wanted the people on ready. He didn't want the people in bed freaking out, going to sleep. None of that. That's not what he was saying. I need y'all ready for when the Passover happens. I don't need you in bed. I need you on ready when the Passover happens. I don't need you in bed. Boy, that'll preach by itself. Boy, that'll preach by itself. I don't need you in bed when the Passover happens. I need you on ready. All right, verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token or a portion upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. All right. So what do we got? What do we got happening here in this moment? Right? We have Jesus clarifying that. Sorry, we have God, but it's still both. God, Jesus are the same. Yes, we agree. In this instance, we have God speaking. God is clarifying that I am the Lord. And what I'm about to do, what I'm about to send, won't simply affect man. This will affect man and beast alike. All firstborn whose spirits will be taken up. And now what he's also challenging is where I am coming down is also demonstrating that not only is something happening in the natural, but something is happening in the spiritual as well, where the gods of Egypt are being challenged in me coming down in this as well. Okay? For those of you that are here, let me scroll. Those of you here on YouTube, let me scroll down. I want to show y'all, because I tracked this. Okay, he's going to bring his judgment upon the gods of Egypt as well. One thing that you'll notice, I want to do a deeper research on this and expound on it and do a YouTube video dedicated to it. But it's believed that each of the plagues are in reference to different Egyptian gods. So let's look at this list. So we have the water turning to blood is in reference to Hapi or Happy. Frogs coming from the Nile is reference to Heket. Lice from the earth's dust, that's Geb. Swarms of flies is from Kepri. Death of cattle and livestock, that's Hathor. Ashes turned to boils and sores is Isis. Hail in the form of fire, that's Nut. Locusts sent from the sky is Seth. 3 days of complete darkness is Ra. And death of the firstborn is a reference to the Pharaoh himself. Okay, and so this is significant depending on the validity of it. This is to demonstrate God to be the ruler over all. This is to demonstrate that God is the supreme power source. That God is the one that is the you think they're the guys over these things, in control of these things, light and darkness and all of these things. No, it's me. It's me. God is telling them, that's why he ended that verse. I am the Lord. It's me. This is me. And I don't even care if the Egyptians are convinced of it. I am showing you. Because here's the thing. He's not having to convince the Israelites. The Israelites believe God to be who he says he is. That's how Moses was received by him in the first place. I am that I am hath sent me. Yahweh. Or as a lot of people say that, Yahshua. Yahweh is the one that sent me. I am that I am hath sent me. I am the Lord. This is a reference to when Jesus verifies himself as God to the Israelites in the New Testament. He says, I am the Lord. That's what validates that Jesus is God. I am the Lord. Same context. Same context. And so he's making his face known. Now here's what another thing he does. Now it's up to you. Again, I'm paraphrasing verse 13, but he's saying it's up to you. Now it's up to you, because I have given you an option, an opportunity, where he's speaking of this is your portion, or this is your token. This is your moment to be able to basically provide that sacrifice that will cover it as the Passover is taking place. That ball is in your court, because if you don't do it, that judgment will also be levied to you. But what he does go on to say here is that in the midst of all of this destruction, what he's reiterating is that he is the one that's going to be doing all of this. I'm the one that's coming through, and they will see my power, is what is being said here. Verse 14 is what is getting into that memorial and that celebration. Now, again, I know I said earlier how they've made the taste of this to not be something to simply enjoy, because here's the thing about it, right? Here's something that we need to keep in mind when we look at what God has done. And we can see evidence of this more with the way that God speaks in future texts. But God doesn't want this to be something, we get to enjoy delicious and beautiful and lovely lamb while the Egyptians are suffering and their babies are dying. Because believe me, that night as they're eating, they're probably hearing the cries all over the land of Egypt. All over the land of Egypt. For God to come down and do this is not a celebration. This is not a party. This is not a good time. He didn't tell them to get ready to celebrate, get ready to dance. He's telling them, get ready to leave. That's why they had to be girded up. But when we look at this as a moment of memorial, right? Even in that, yes, it's a feast. Even in that, yes, it's for us to recognize the time that we were set free. But even more so, it's a time for us to refer back to who God was in that moment for us. To look back and reverence him as the true and living God. That I even have this moment to celebrate. That I even have this moment to have this feast. That I even have this moment to sit across from my brothers and sisters without fear of oppression and discrimination and judgment. I get to have this moment because of the true and living and almighty God of heaven who's done this for those that love him, for those that were obedient to him. Man, that is what just like, oh my gosh, man. Jesus is absolutely amazing. And all through this refers back to Jesus. Jesus' entire body was prepped for sacrifice. Jesus being the firstborn of Mary by the Spirit of God and not by the seed of man. Jesus living a life without blemish, without question, no sin was upon him, though he was regularly tempted by people and things in the world. He did not give in to those temptations. Thus again, showing himself to be the true and living God that each and every one of us who I believe that are here, and if you don't know who Jesus Christ is, I pray that this blesses you and maybe even leads you to Jesus if you're new to this stream and you don't know much about Christ. I pray that this blesses you. If you're going to watch this video later on, I just want you to know that Jesus Christ is looking to transform your life. Thank you for letting me know that, Kitsune. Thank you. But Jesus has transformed our lives because he lived his life that way. But he didn't simply live his life that way to show us that he's capable of it and to tell us, well, you can do what I did. We can't live a life without blemish like Jesus did. Don't let nobody lie to you. I know that girl's all over TikTok telling everybody how she doesn't sin. She never sins. Sin doesn't even enter her mind. You're sinning right then and there. But we're not here to rag on her. But Jesus is the one who lived a life without blemish so that he could be the sacrifice. Not saying that, man, if I didn't have to be the sacrifice, I'd be down here sinning. No, if he didn't have to be that sacrifice, he'd be still living with the Father and never came down here. But because he had to come down here, because he had to be that sacrifice, he had to be a lamb without blemish, thus being sacrificed on that cross for each and every one of us, was his blood shed that day. Do we reverence him for what it is that he's done? Every aspect of him beaten and bruised. Did he bleed and did he suffer? Nothing was cut away from him. His flesh was torn apart, but nothing was cut away from him. They didn't chop off his hand and then hang him up on the cross. They didn't chop off his head and then hang him up on the cross. They didn't chop off his foot and then hang him up on the cross. The entirety of his body was burned up on that cross. No remnants. No remnants. No remnants were scattered. I'm going to talk about this scattering. No remnants of Jesus were scattered. Now watch here. He was in the tomb for 3 days. But when they went to go look for a body, there was nobody there. Now, assumptions were made at that time that someone maybe came and stole it, but nothing. No remnants. This is also what beats the claim that there were remnants of him, that he may have been kidnapped and his body hidden, was that he rose and walked the earth for 40 days following the time in which he rose, showing him to be alive and not dead. To over 500 witnesses is this testimony evident. And back during that time, word of mouth could be trusted. You can see remnants of this all throughout the 4 Gospels, but I would recommend looking at Luke 23 and 24. A lot of what I'm saying is kind of going off of Luke 23 and 24. A lot of what I'm saying right now, we're at 22,000 likes. Let's get it up to that 4,000. Come on, 40,000, guys. 40,000. We're at 22. Let's get to 40,000. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. And we see Jesus going through that suffering. Remember, by the morning, there should be no remnants of the lamb whenever they were doing this on the 14th day, the 14th night when they killed the lamb and they ate. By the morning, remember, they were supposed to burn up any remnants left. Notice, when they came to check the tomb and they saw that Jesus' body was not there, there were no remnants for them to make any accusations or assumptions. There were no remnants of Jesus for anyone to make any accusations or assumptions. There were no remnants. None. None. For them to twist tales, for them to make up stories, for them to make accusations, there was no remnants. There was no remnants. And they gathered on the day of Pentecost, and he ascended into heaven, leaving behind the Great Commission and his Holy Spirit to dwell in each and every one of us. That is Easter for a Christian. Easter in the Greek transferred to Pascha or Pascha. Pascha. Hey, that's all right, Warrior for Jesus, man. Thank you for another fireball. I appreciate you, man. You be blessed. Just know this is going to be on YouTube, so you can come back and see it anytime, man. That's A-okay. It's going to be on YouTube. You can come back anytime. Pascha. That's Passover. If you look at, I think it's Acts chapter 14, when Peter was taken into captivity and about to be delivered out of prison by the angel. They were looking to keep him in captivity all through, as it says in chapter 14 in the King James Version, through Easter. We even see the word Easter used during the time of Peter. You're welcome, Ken. You're welcome. I just love Jesus, man. I don't take that lightly either. I know I said that like it's light, but it's not light. I just love God so much. I just love Jesus so much. Because he makes himself evident in a way that nobody can argue that he is Christ, the Lord. No one can convince me otherwise. Because every aspect throughout history proves himself to be who he said he was. I'm about to talk about that here in a second. I'm about to talk about that more here in a second. But that's who Christ, that's Christ, man. That's Christ, man. What's significant here, too, for those of you tuning in on YouTube, you're going to be able to get a kind of a visual here in a second. But I'm still going to articulate it for you guys. You can Google search this as well. So I don't know. One of the things you'll see, right? There is a regular practice, even back from the olden days and old art and old sculptures, where you see these mothers, whether they were goddesses that's being illustrated or just a regular mother with their child, and they're being depicted in that traditional way in which we oftentimes see Jesus holding either the baby Jesus or even the way that sculpture illustrates her holding the body of Jesus after he's been crucified. But we see this depiction of the mother holding the son illustrated all throughout history in several different cultures and different religions. Okay, so if you look in the Bible, there is a mention of someone by the name of Nimrod. Now there is some speculation, there are some records for this, so just bear with me. But Nimrod was the great nephew to Shem. Shem in the book of Genesis is one of the sons of Noah. So Nimrod was a king during his time, a very he was more like a powerhouse, strong. He's, I guess you could say, the early times depiction of a masculine man, if you will. However, he was someone that had incestuous relationships with his own mother, Semiramis. Okay, he had an incestuous relationship with his own mother, Semiramis. Right now, with this relationship, what ended up happening was that Shem, in the shame of how Nimrod lived his life, because he was very, very corrupt. He was a very corrupt ruler, very corrupt king, but his people loved him because he really didn't care about doing whatever it is what he wanted, doing whoever he wanted even. He was very corrupt in that regard, and he demonstrated a lot of power, and I think he was even prominent for, war and killing and things like that, which is bringing back a lot of what Shem and the family of Noah had escaped before the flood, those terrible acts of violence. And he is even one to be suspected to be a contributor to the building of the Tower of Babel was Nimrod. So Shem went and killed Nimrod, cutting him up into several pieces and scattering his body parts all across the nation, all across their world at that time. Okay, go right ahead, Power. Go right ahead. I'll still be here, man. I still got a little bit more to talk about before I close out. So, thank you. But he, how many people we got in the stream? We only got 3. I'm cool with that. That's A-okay. So he scattered his body parts. Now, this, of course, was detrimental. We just lost our ruler. We just lost our king. That may make us look vulnerable to other nations. This may make our nation fall apart because now we don't have a ruler. But what the response of the priest and even his mother was, again, this is speculation. There might be even some records to support this. But the claim is that they elevated him from that moment. They were telling the people, he may be dead, but now he has risen to the position of a god. And some even say that he was risen to the position of a sun god. And not only did they deitize Nimrod, they also deitized the sun. I think it's speculated that this is their son, but that is Tammuz, which is a Mesopotamian god as well. So Tammuz was elevated to godhood. And so for those of you here on YouTube, here are some illustrations here. I don't know if you can see that. This is an illustration of Semiramis, and it's either Nimrod or it's Tammuz. Here's an illustration of the mother and son picture, like I said, that we've seen all throughout history. That's where that's being illustrated by that culture during that time. Some speculate even with this picture that might be the case, depending on the religious group and the people that you're looking at. Okay, this is where that reflection is being illustrated at. Now, I know looking at this, you're like, oh, no, that's just Mary and Jesus. Yes, for the Catholics and the early church, that may have been the case, but because we have these early illustrations for Semiramis and either Nimrod or Tammuz, that's where those speculations also come from. It's not limited to just that. Okay, just making that point known here. Okay, now we also see this in the depictions for Osiris and his wife Isis. Now, for those of you that know, again, I don't know the full breakdown of the mythology. I look forward to doing a deep dive into mythological studies. I really look forward to that because I believe that all of that ties back to the gospel, and I'm about to make a tie here as well. But we see this with Osiris and his wife Isis. Even in that instance, we see a incestuous relationship where Osiris and Isis are brother and sister. And so they had their son Horus. Okay, and in them having their son Horus, the sun god, as we see, he's tied as the god of the sun. We see with Osiris, he's a god of death and rebirth, which shows some ties to how we identify as Christians to Jesus Christ. Does that mean Christians or Jesus stole that from them? No, it does not. Because remember what we saw even with the Passover. God, I am the Lord, showed up in that time to prove that where you think you have these different gods for these different positions, places, and titles and things, I'm showing you that I'm actually the one that's in control of all of these things that you worship these other gods for. I am the Lord, not me. I'm not doing this at me. This is just symbolic. I am the Lord. Is what God said in Exodus chapter 12. That is what he told them. And so he's demonstrated in that moment that he is the Lord. Though we see with the Egyptian history that Osiris is known as the god of death and rebirth. Even more so, when he was killed by his brother Seth, he's cut up into 12 pieces and his body parts are scattered. However, the tales still say that those body parts, though they are scattered, he is still alive. Okay? Which shows some ties back to even that which existed even before them, tying back to the possibility of this being related to Nimrod. Even more so, remember how I mentioned the goddess Inanna. Her and her brother Utu have been speculated to even have intimate relationships as well. Something else to bring to the table in regards to Utu and Inanna. Even though she is a goddess of sex and fertility and love, she is not immediately known to have had any offspring. So that in some way, though they probably made sacrifices to her in hopes of fertility and being able to have kids, she's not known for being someone to reproduce. She didn't reproduce and produce more demigods or gods for the pantheon. She's not known for that at all or whatsoever. So that is another thing that may contribute to her not necessarily being a goddess that is specifically for Easter, specifically. So again, this is just speculation. I don't have full evidence for these claims, though there are records that support these claims. Okay? But again, when we look at, for those of you on YouTube that can see this, when we look at Isis and Osiris, we see again that image of the mother holding her son Horus. Okay? We see that this is a common illustration, and we see that here being recapitulated when we get the depiction of Mary holding her son Jesus. Okay? The reason why I referenced in my notes here for Luke 23 and 24, when you get to Luke 24, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James, who's believed to be the mother of Jesus, were all present at witnessing the tomb first. So the mother witnessed the son being no longer being in the tomb, and also being alive, and being that testament to the apostles at the time, disciples, that Jesus has risen from the dead. Okay, so why is this important for us to know as believers, as Christians? It's not only, and I'm not saying simply, it's not only the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's not only that his Holy Spirit now gets to dwell within us. It's not only that, though that's a magnitude in and of itself. Because remember how golly guys, I'm about to go there. Remember how I mentioned earlier how with the sacrifice during the time of the Passover, you mean to tell me we not only had to find a lamb, which could be a goat or a sheep. We not only had to make sure that they were male. We had to make sure that they were perfect, no blemishes whatsoever. Not only did we have to make sure that they were without blemish and were perfect, we then had to separate all of these males from the other males for 4 days straight. And then we had to make sure every single person, welcome back Grive Power, we had to make sure every single person, every single Israelite could eat, so that they would be covered, so that the doorposts would be covered by the blood. We had to have enough blood to cover their doorposts, so that when the Passover spirit came, their firstborns wouldn't be taken out of their home? Yes. There was enough blood. Jesus Christ dying on the cross for us, being a one sacrifice to cover the sins of the past, the present, and the future of all time. His blood is enough that no longer do other sacrifices have to be made, that no longer will he have to return to do it again, His blood covers all of our homes. His blood covers all of our homes. Each and every one of us. I say that this is so important because as we look at these other religions depicting these different tales and these different stories of how Nimrod was cut up into several pieces and they tried to deitize him, where Osiris was cut up into several pieces, and of course he's considered a god in the Egyptian folklore and their mythology. Jesus, if you recall, when he went to go sit down with the disciples, he broke bread and said, "This is my body which is broken for you," and he spread his body with the brothers. I'm telling you, Jesus is smart in how he does things. They noted it. They noted it that they broke bread. This bread was shared with everyone, even the betrayer. He got a piece of it. But no remnants of Jesus remained. But scientists, philosophers, researchers, archaeologists confirm that Jesus Christ did indeed live. There are more records for Jesus Christ being alive before his death and after to support that Jesus Christ is who he said he was. In the natural, even if you want to put that barrier up, at least in the natural sense. Validating that where we're looking at all of these historical references, that Jesus Christ actually did what we have, yes, minimal records for, but what they only have a mythological record of. They don't have a natural record. They only have a mythological record of. That shows that Jesus did what they couldn't do. Jesus did what they could not do, making Jesus all the more real. Making Jesus all the more real. Guys, I want to end this with these last couple of notes. Those of you that can see here, I kind of did like a brief synopsis of Lent. I did a brief synopsis on Lent, and I say that because Lent is done beginning on what's called the Day of Ash Wednesday. And what they do is either, whether it's February or March, is done in either or depending on the date in which the solstice falls, the spring solstice hits, that lunar cycle when it begins, when it hits. That's where you base which month you start in, where they fast for 6 to 7 weeks. That's Lent. There's a fasting that takes place within those 6 to 7 weeks. And it starts on the Day of Ash Wednesday. And they fast for those 40 days. That's Lent. Okay? And so they're fasting. This is what the early Christian church did. They were fasting up until the Passover, up until the resurrection of Jesus, in which they would celebrate that during that time. That goes back to Esterimanov, the 4th month. That was what the Germans were doing during that time. Also, during this time, what propagated for this to even be built up to, and I'll kind of speak on a little bit more, what pushed this up further are a lot of the records and statements being said about what Constantine, when he came into power, had began to push. Now, there's two sides to this. Some believe that to be fair, that this was done in response to the Jews had their celebrations and their rituals and things, the Passover, Pascha. Okay, as we see in the Old and New Testament, they celebrated Pascha, the Passover. And so what Constantine did was he said, we need for y'all to stop your celebrations and your festivals. Let's recapitulate that to be something that us as Christians can be a part of as well. Jesus did fast for 40 days. That's also some of the supporting for that as well. Is when he fasted for the 40 days and 40 nights during the time in which he was tempted in the wilderness as well. That plays a part in that. It's also believed that trial of being walking through the wilderness was a part of the preparation for his call, which was going on his mission to, of course, do what he did, which was share the gospel, show his power, as well as be that sacrifice and resurrect from the dead to show himself that he is Lord. All of that kind of correlates one to another. But yes, absolutely. And so I lost my place there. I do apologize. No fault to you, Kitsune. I'm just trying to keep track of where it was. But with Constantine, it's either that they translated those Jewish celebrations so that it would then become Lent. That way, the non-Jewish Christians could fellowship with the Messianic ones and otherwise, and all do this together. Thus, where we get Lent and where we get Easter. Or it's been speculated, though again, there's not a lot of evidence for this. There's some evidence. I won't say there's not a lot, but there's some evidence for this. That what Constantine did was shut down those celebrations that were done by the pagans, and then take what they did and do it this way. But there's not a lot of evidence to support those claims. And this began back, I believe, in like the early 1200s AD, the early 1200 to 1500s AD. Whereas around the 1000s to 1200 is around the time when the pagan practices had ceased and or were completely shut down. It fell between that window. There's documentation. There's an encyclopedia of Easter or of I wrote the notes for it. Hold on. The encyclopedia of something. I didn't write it down. I thought I took note of this. Yeah, I thought I took note of this. But there's an encyclopedia by Tanya Gulovich where she kind of breaks down some of the details that contribute to Lent. But let me go ahead and talk about Ash Wednesday real quick. Ash Wednesday is when what they would do during that time, that day, that Wednesday, is they would be hyper-focusing on repenting, hyper-focusing on the sins that they had committed. We're up to 25,000 likes here on TikTok, guys. Great job. We're almost finished. Can we make it to 40,000? I don't know. That's another 15,000 likes. Can we do it? We got 3 people in the chat. Can we get 15,000 likes here before we finish? I'm not saying you gotta, but if you can, kudos to you. And thank you guys for being here on YouTube once again. I thank y'all so very much. I appreciate W. Hunt for having been here. I appreciate that Ken is here, aka Mr. Rattle. I appreciate you being here. I know there was another gentleman here as well. I appreciate them being here also. Thank you very much. I don't know if you're still here. I can't tell. But thank you so very much for having been here also. I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank y'all so very much. Absolutely. The day of Ash, they would reflect on their sins they have committed over the years during that time and be repentant and hyper-focusing in prayer in reverence to the Lord. Even more so, some of the practices, particularly I think it was with the Catholic Church, was that they would go by the church and they would press upon their forehead a cross covered in ash, leaving like a black mark upon their forehead, again for the day of Ash, and reflecting for their sins. Furthermore, going from that point is when they would fast on that the Fridays that following for the next 6 to 7 weeks, up until the official celebration of resurrection of Jesus. And so they would continue to fast on those days. The standard was from meat, but over time we see that shifted from it being several different other things, whether that in our case be electronics, social media, television, going out and doing like the fun stuff, fasting from your favorite desserts. That's where that would kind of shift and change over time, just to make sure that we point those things out. But that's where that fasting would come in. Now, a couple of other things that they would do during the time of Lent is something known as the 3 pillars. Again, I'm pretty sure there's way more that goes into Lent than just these little things that I'm pointing out, but these are also crucial to the history. And I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you all this here in just a moment, in accordance to Easter. But the 3 pillars of Lent are prayer, fasting, and alms giving. So where, again, like I said, it's one thing for you to do something as an individual, but during these times of coming together and gathering, you're doing this more of unified body sense, if you will, the body coming together to fulfill these things. But you would set aside additional time for prayer to build a deeper connection with God. That's where that prayer would come in. I hope you guys can see this clearly here on the YouTube. Let me know. I would definitely want to be sure that y'all can see this. But they would set aside that time for a prayer. There would also be fasting. They would, again, select something that's particularly challenging to their flesh. I heard someone say this that was actually very good. They spoke of how that which is a temptation against you is always going to be something that'll bother you. It won't be something that you have control over. For example, I don't drink, never have drank, and I have no desire to drink alcohol. So the devil and even God, arguably, aren't going to come and tempt me with alcohol. Alcohol is not going to be something laid before me like, oh, man, I really got to struggle. I really got to fight not to drink. No, it's not going to be that. My struggle is, with lust and desire of women. So if I'm going to be tempted and to maintain that self-control, I'm going to be tempted in those areas to tempt me, to challenge my flesh. And I have to, again, maintain that self-control. So where, in some sense, I do have that self-control, if I'm going to be, fasting, I'm probably going to fast from social media because that's where my largest amount of temptation lies. If not from candy and or energy drinks, that's where my fast would take place during the time of Lent. If I were, remarried, granted I'm still working through the divorce, where I would be, if I were to be remarried, I'd probably fast from sex. That might be something that I would do during that time of Lent to reverence and honor God more. That's something that I would probably fast from. And so that's fasting is where that's crucial. Almsgiving is, sure, you might, go through work and go out and grocery shop and all of this and opportunities come up where you get to talk about Jesus and share the gospel, sure. Almsgiving is more of intentionally going out and sharing the gospel, intentionally doing something good for your community, intentionally helping the poor, those type of things. Almsgiving is intentionally setting aside time to do those things, okay, during the time of Lent. Now, I'm saying all of this to point to or to point out how the, got dizzy. Got a little dizzy there, guys. Got a little faint. But I say all this because during this time, especially back during the early church, okay, this brings in these two things once again. We talk about the eggs. There's more evidence when we're talking about Easter association to eggs to the Christian church rather than being associated to any other religion specifically. Okay? Because, again, eggs is a food source. But during the early church, during the time of Lent, what the church would do, correlating in these two senses, Tanya Gulovich, she notated this for King Edward. What King Edward did was, King Edward had 420 eggs hard-boiled, because when you hard-boil the egg, they last a bit longer. They hard-boiled eggs to serve that time of Lent. That way, when they came off Lent, as a part of being able to finally eat again, they would eat of the eggs. And what King Edward had done for those 420 eggs so that his family could eat them was that he had the eggs dyed in gold so that when they went to eat, that's what they would be eating of, was those hard-boiled eggs. Hence why the eggs were incorporated into the Easter practice. Where this correlates more with those that are of more of a poor status, those that were poor couldn't afford to eat the rich and expensive meat once coming off Lent. So what they did was, what they could afford to do was hard-boil their eggs, store them, and wait until the end of Lent. That way they could eat of their hard-boiled eggs. And for them, what they would do is they would dye the eggs red so that would signify the blood of Jesus covering them, thus eating of the egg. That is the symbolism there with the egg being introduced to the early church. That's why that has ties to Easter practice. Now you might be asking, well, what about the rabbit? Okay, I don't have all the answers on this, just some things that I've heard and read and looked into, is that the Germans during their time, what they would regularly see As you know, in some cultures, when they would see an animal, for us it would be the turkey. They would have an animal that was symbolic to that time. We would do the turkey. For the Germans during that time, it would be the hare. The hare would come out and fight for their mate. And the hare is not as commonly seen during, when I say when they do show up, you don't see several hares showing up. Oh my gosh, there's hundreds and thousands of hares. They don't reproduce at the level that rabbits do. But when the Germans saw the hare, that they saw it during the spring, tying the hare being a symbol, an animal symbolic to that time, just as the turkey. We don't deitize a hare during Thanksgiving. Thus, the Germans didn't deitize the hare during Easter, or Eastermanoth, remember, the 4th month of the year. They weren't deitizing that hare. However, when it came to translating the hare into America, we saw more rabbits than we saw hares. And so when it came to America and seeing the rabbit, they were like, we see more rabbit than we do hare, so we're going to make it the rabbit. Oh, and the rabbit reproduces at a higher rate than the hare. So yeah, it's going to be the rabbit to signify the fertility and life for us when we're looking at an animal to recognize or symbolize during this month. Hence why the rabbit is represented during Easter, at least for the Christians. That much can be said for that. All right, guys. That is all that I have to speak to the Passover, speak to the resurrection, to speak to Jesus, to speak to other religions and their history and ties to at least us as Christians and the biblical history. I pray that this Bible study was a blessing to you guys. I pray that you were able to learn a lot. And I am so thankful for each and every one of you that have tuned in for this live here on TikTok. Thank y'all so very much for getting us to 26,000 likes on TikTok. Thank you. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Thank y'all so very much. Kitsune, I thank you for your diligence and your pursuit. You are always been a blessing, Kitsune. Thank you so very much. I thank you so very much, Kian, a.k.a. Mr. Rattles, for tuning here on YouTube. W. Hunt, thank you for being here. And I thank you for anybody and everybody that watches this stream. Hey, my man, how you say, Plovely? Oh, ZZ, oh, lovely, P. Lovely. I've been trying to say the names. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you guys so very much. Y'all are a blessing, man. That makes me laugh. I appreciate y'all. Oh my goodness. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Y'all have been a blessing. I know you hollered, ZZ. I know you was cackling. You was cackling, ZZ. Oh my goodness, guys. This has been a blessing. Thank y'all so very much. Again, let me let y'all know we'll be going live once again, but it won't be on TikTok. This will be strictly on YouTube, so tune in tomorrow. I believe it's at 3 p.m. Go to my YouTube. You can see the live being posted for you guys to tune in. Hey, well, Sir Makaden, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you for being here, and I thank you. I pray this is a blessing. If you missed anything, just go to YouTube. This is going to be posted directly here for you to see the full stream, for you to tune in there, just so you know. But we'll be going live tomorrow to tune into Crunchyroll, as we will be streaming live the first episode of Hell's Paradise, and I will be giving any and all Christian opportunities that I can give, good and bad, in regards to this anime series. I've already collected 9 volumes of this manga, so just so you guys know. Also, just to reiterate, you guys can go to my Cash App, and you can donate there. And if you make a donation on my Cash App, please make sure to specify a specific comic book or manga that you would like me to get, and I will go get it to add to my collection. If I go get that manga or comic book, I will go live on TikTok for you guys to see us go to. My daughter loves to go with me, so you'll see my daughter there. You won't see her, but you'll hear my daughter in the background as well. And we'll go to a bookstore, particularly Barnes & Noble. That way we can get that book or manga, and I will shout you out on the TikTok live as we go to get that book. Thank you guys so very much. I pray that you have yourselves a blessed day.